So last week was the first week that Kim acknowledged her divorce with Kanye. It hasn't been mentioned the whole season. They were alluding to it because Kim has been like snapping at people. So they'll say like, oh, we know Kim is going through stuff in her private life. But now they finally like acknowledged it. And last week she was saying like, Kanye's a great dad, a great husband, like all these things. She said, but he deserves someone to travel around with him. Like they can't both be the kings. He needs somebody that's super submissive. And she was that to him to a certain point, but she's also on her boss shit. They have kids. She doesn't want to move her kids from Wyoming to LA to Chicago to New York. And he's going to do that with or without his family. And that's what he has been doing. So she alluded to all that last week. But now, and then the other story was whether or not Scott and Courtney were going to live happily ever after. And I feel like this is such a corny way to go out. Like the finale tomorrow doesn't feel like a series finale of a show that's been around for 20 seasons. It seems like the end episode to the season like any other one. So there's like no big bang. Like I almost might have wanted like a live show or like a recap over the years. Like I know it's corny and cliche, but like we ain't getting none of that. Like no recaps, no look backs, no behind the scenes, no bloopers, no unshown footage. Like that to me is what this finale should be like. And I'm not getting that.
You don't think that'll come in 6 months? They'll probably still do all of that. Like, how else do you end the show and still find ways to market and make money off of it?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope they do. But for now, I'm unfulfilled. I feel like we couldn't come out harder than this. I want to see Rob. We haven't seen Rob Kardashian for years. Like, things like that.
But all of these people have made the singular choice that they probably don't no longer want to be on it, right? Like Kanye didn't want to be on the show. Rob doesn't want to.
Kanye's on the show. Kanye's on the show.
I know he's on. Like, but does he have speaking roles? He doesn't do background interviews.
Yeah. He does commentary. He does the music score. Kanye's up in there.
Oh, really? Okay. He
does. Yeah. Score? Yeah, so like the theme song and shit is like no Kanye song we ever heard of, but it's clearly a Kanye like production. Yeah, he's involved. I mean, I wouldn't say this is not official, but I would believe he does a lot of the creative direction for the show. But he has his own commentary, his own like, yeah.
So what do you want? What would fulfill you about the Kardashians? Because you've been watching for 20 seasons, you've been invested. So I guess tell me why you're so invested, right? Like the things over the last 20 years that have got you invested, and therefore what you would want, what would satisfy you because you have given it so much.
So the Kardashians came out 14 years ago. Oh no, or was it 17 years ago? Yeah, I was 14 when they came out. And so to set the stage, like, and this is just for me personally, like this is not why someone else should be invested, but this is why I'm invested. For one, I'm invested in a lot of celebrities, right? Like I come from the only child mindset. So a lot of my first friends were external people that I saw on TV. And so similarly to the Mariah and Jay-Z conversation we had yesterday, like I'm dead ass about that. Like I look at them as people in my life. And it's not a whole lot of people, but like Mariah gets it, Puffy gets it, Jay-Z gets it, Beyonce gets it to a certain extent. She's a distant friend. Kim and the whole family get it. Jennifer Lopez gets it. Like these are legit friends in my head. We've gone through things with each other. We've experienced things with each other. One thing that they all have in common is longevity. So I've grown up alongside their careers. So as I'm ambitious and as I thrive to live similar lifestyles that they live, and I'm watching them the way I'm watching them, and I'm coming up, like, yeah, they're giving me that motivation. Like Kanye's in there too. They're giving me that motivation where I'm like, yeah, nah, they doing it. They're doing it at a whole different scale, but they're doing it. Kim in particular, though, of all those people that I mentioned, she relative to everyone else at the same time, and 17 years ago, she started from the bottom. relative, right? In the sense that she had to work for a living. She was Ray J's girlfriend. She wasn't Kim Kardashian. She was that cute chick that hangs with Ray J, that cute chick that hangs with Nick Cannon. And so they had an opportunity. They had a sex tape. And they sat back and they said, how are we going to make this work for us? And that alone has been the story of my life, where I've had obstacles, things put in front of me that I'm like, how am I going to make lemonade out of these lemons? I know it's so cliche, but this is around the same time I got kicked out of Talent Unlimited. Like, so I was in that mindset of like, I have to make my obstacles work for me. So because it was a reality show, no matter how produced it may have been or whatever, the theme of the first few seasons were these girls doing whatever they got to do to make it. So there was this phase in Kim's career where she would take any opportunity that came to her. So on one hand, she's doing commercials for like Carl's Jr. And then on the other hand, she's doing weight loss pills, like all in the same thing, right? So like she was taking whatever came. And at the time, I was like, yes, girl, get your money, right? Then it got more refined. She was like, oh, no. This is my lane. So let me optimize this lane. And she found her lane at the same time I was finding my lane, right? So I really felt like we were like lockstep in where we were going. Completely different worlds, completely different lives or whatever. But like, I felt encouraged by her in that way. And first episode, they were cashiers at their mom's boutique. And Bruce Jenner was the celebrity in the family. Like, he was the one that, like, if anybody you should admire, it's Bruce Jenner. But they were able to, like, come up from cashier to sponsorships to coming up with their licensing deals. So, like, they would have a line at Sears, but it really wasn't their line, to them actually now owning their brands and producing their products. So like, I've been every step of the way. So it's been more or less like, that's my Armenian cousin over there doing her thing, and I'm just admiring it. But my favorite Kardashian is not Kim. Let me make that clear. My favorite Kardashian is Kris, the mom. That's who I'm most impressed with. That's whose story I want to know more about pre-Kardashian. And that's who really, like, Kim drives me because she's like closer to me in age, but it's that mom that I'm like, yo, I'm trying to be where she's at when I'm 65.
Because you recognize the legacy that she was able to create for her family.
Even pre that, right? So like, there's so many things I don't know about Kris Jenner because we don't know yet, right? But as far back as we know about Kris Jenner, she was best friends with Nicole Brown Simpson. They both met OJ and Robert Kardashian at the same time. So here's how I'm seeing it. Think of me and Melanie, for example. We just some regular chicks. We both come across some fly niggas at the same time. And we like, oh nah, let's make this work for us. And they sure enough did, and they married them. And then how crazy is it that OJ then kills his wife, and then Robert Kardashian goes and defends this dude? Like that dynamic alone, I just don't think gets talked about enough.
It don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. So like, that alone,
none of it makes sense. Like there's gotta be you could build conspiracy movies off of that. I could write a movie.
This is a conspiracy that people laugh at, but I really do think that Khloe Kardashian, her dad is OJ. If you look at OJ's daughter, Sydney, and you look at Khloe, and you look at Khloe compared to her sisters, it's like, come on now. But then if I were Kris, right, it's one thing if you cheat with another white dude, but you cheated with a black man. That's risky. Like, she could have came out looking like me. So that's risky. So she got lucky that Khloe looked enough like them, but not enough to not have some questions, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. That dynamic alone, to me, deserves its own movie. But then it gets better. She divorces her husband rightfully because he's defending the murder of her best friend. Then you marry the star athlete of our lifetime. So I just, and then he transitions.
Well, before that, like even before,
here's a lot that happened.
How did she meet Because her life is set when she meets Bruce Jenner, right? Like, I mean, her life was already kind of set when Kardashian dies. And I mean, you're not mentioning the fact that Kardashian dies on top of that.
But she was married to Bruce before he died. But yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So they broke up, divorced, she got with Bruce, and then Kardashian died. Okay.
Yes. But be clear, like the Kardashian family were not necessarily wealthy. Like they lived in Beverly Hills, but they were like the regular people of Beverly Hills. So that's why Kim, and this is why I think that those girls do have hustle in them, because they were on the bottom of the barrel of this affluent world. So they were like, oh, I got to get to where they at. So I'm a hustle. So Kim was, don't forget, she was Paris Hilton's wardrobe stylist first.
An assistant.
So an assistant and like a closet cleaner. So according to Kim, she would ask her dad to buy her like designer boots. Then she would turn around and put it on eBay and resell them, right? So she was trying to hustle from before this even was a thing. But I think that dynamic of her being in this affluent area, but not really being like as affluent as folks in Beverly Hills, kicked them up and drive. But yes, Robert Kardashian was still alive when she married Bruce Jenner, but she married Bruce Jenner within like 6 months. But Bruce wasn't necessarily doing much at the time because he wasn't competing. He wasn't doing anything. So she kick-started his motivational speaking career. She was like, well, you're motherfucking Bruce Jenner. Like, you don't have to be swinging from doing hurdle jumps to make money. You have a voice. You were on the fucking Wheaties box. So let's go around to these colleges and these different programs and do motivational speaking. So she was managing his career. In the midst of that is when the Kim sex tape came out. And they were like, all right, like, let's do something about this.
So let's focus on the sex tape real quick.
Okay.
It's an actual leak. Somebody got sexual footage of Ray J and Kim.
It depends on whose story you want to tell.
Because I heard about it weeks before it happened. Like, the way I've learned about Kim Kardashian was there is a girl with a sex tape with Ray J. She's Paris Hilton's assistant, and it's coming out soon.
So yes, so that tape was made years before it came out, right? They made it for, like, if you watch it, it clearly seems like something for them. At some point, somebody got a hold of the tape. And and this is the part that is still vague from both Ray J and Kim. But what is fact is that Vivid Entertainment made an offer and said, we'll give you like $1 million or something for the rights of the tape. And Chris and Kim were like, aight, fuck it. They tried to play it off like it was done against their will. The whole first season of Kardashians is like Kim having mental breakdowns because she was embarrassed that this happened to her. But it would be against the law for them to put that out there if you didn't sign off on it. And she gets residuals. So, for example, Ray J, because remember when Ray J and Kanye were like beefing a little bit when Ray J came out where I hit it first and
I hit it first. That's like one of the greatest diss records of all time.
Of all time. So when Kim and Kanye got married, Ray J wrote a check to Kanye and Kim as their wedding gift with that month's residuals from the sex tape. And it was like a 5-figure, like 6-figure check. And he wrote them the check for that month as their wedding gift.
Because people are still buying it? How do you get residuals for it?
It still gets money.
Wow.
It still gets money. So anyway, the sex tape, yeah. So Vivid made them an offer, they accepted it, and that's how we know Kim. But even to Kim and them's credit, because people say, oh, y'all made a sex tape and got famous. There's tons of sex tapes out there that people didn't pop off from. So you have to give them credit for making the best out of a situation. And they put the whole family on. But really, we got to give Ryan Seacrest some credits. Let me throw Ryan Seacrest in there. Because Ryan Seacrest was like a family friend. And he happened to come over one weekend, because at the time, the Kardashians would have these family barbecues every Sunday. And he happened to come over to one of the family barbecues one time and was like, wait a minute, this would be an amazing show. And think about think about the environment at the time. We were coming off of the Osbournes.
Simple
We were
life.
coming off of the simple life. And so these fly on the wall into family format was already somewhat of a thing. So it fit into the environment at the time of reality TV. So Ryan Seacrest was like, okay, great. This will be a great show. So the family thought, oh, this will be good for one season. Like, they never thought it would be what it came to be. But it's really important to give Ryan his credit because he saw the vision.
You built all of this investment into it. It's about the hustle. It's about the grind. Is that where the enjoyment of this show truly comes from, though? Have you been watching? I know it's growth. You're talking about growth, but where is the actual, like, what keeps you entertained? What keeps you watching every week?
So I think it's hustle first. I think too, for me, and this is like a personal thing, like growing up with a man, I've only lived with men my whole life, right? And there's something about Kim's femininity, not necessarily her sexuality, but it's something about her femininity for me that kept me watching, that I was attracted to. And I don't mean it romantically, but it was like she has a certain type of femininity about herself that I think makes her special. So that was one of it.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I do think that's just like societally, socially, that's a big thing to make a note of, right? That femininity is an idealism. It's not also just like an inherent thing. It is something that you can strive for, and it's something that you can improve on, that you can like manipulate, and that is part of what the Kardashian brand is. Redefining femininity, right? So even with the sex tape, it's like we can still be powerful with the sex tape. But I can see that.
Yeah, like I needed that. And I'm sure other girls, if you grew up in a house and you got sisters and a mom in the house, it may not have meant much to you. But for me, and I'm a teenager at the time, so I'm coming into my own in this as well. And just observing how she expresses her femininity, not sexuality, but literally just the femininity of her. I needed that at the time in my life. And I didn't get it just from her. This was also during the time as like the Tyra show was out. And I was also gravitated to her femininity, which was very different than Kim's. But they both had a level of femininity that I wanted to pull elements from at some point in my future life.
And more of that role models, like on the most basic.
Yeah.
You found role models, you found mentorship in them, whereas they weren't around in your regular life, so you attracted them to. And I mean, that's what celebrity life is, right? Like that's where it comes from. So it's working.
Yeah, for me.
And it's also new, right? Because you've never been this open and seen somebody vulnerable. When you're watching television shows, it's about famous people already, but you're watching somebody from the bottom who you can relate to. Okay, and you're ascending with them. Okay.
Yes. So I was looking at my Twitter, because I'm not a Twitter person, but at the time, this is when Twitter was like the main social media channel. And I'm looking at tweets from 2010 and 2011 of me tweeting Kim like advice. So like one of my tweets was, because they have the Dash, they opened up the Dash store in Calabasas, which is like their retail store. And I sent the tweet saying, Kim, y'all should really consider opening a Dash in New York, because you'll have 4 seasons. Like, this is what I'm describing in the tweet. Like, you have winter, spring, summer, fall. Like, Calabasas is only hot. So this is my like 17-year-old, 18-year-old thinking I'm hitting her with some knowledge. So I was so invested in their investments and like what they were doing in their next business step, because I wasn't tweeting her about, oh my God, I loved your boots. Oh my God, like I'm like, nah, now your next move is you got to open up a Dash in New York, like, because that's the wave I was on. Like, I was on my hustle wave, and I was inspired by hers and by theirs as a unit. So I went to the opening of the Dash store. Like, I knew what day it was opening, and they had like a paparazzi and stuff out there, and I waited for hours just to see them like pull up and walk in. And it was so worth it, because it made it real. Like, because all this was happening on TV, yes, But I had to go see it for myself because I was so inspired by them that I'm like, my own eyes have to like see this in action. Especially since I tweeted about it like 2 years prior. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta open up a dash in New York. So when I went, it was like the best night of my life up until that point. Everybody was there. Kim, Chloe, Courtney, Scott Disick was there. And I remember on the show when they showed the this is why I'm invested in her and Kanye's relationship. On the show, when they showed how they were planning for the opening of Dash, Kanye would pop in and out and give her advice. But I knew they were fucking. I was like, something, because this was pre-Chris Humphries. Like, this is still, they still didn't get together for like 10 years up until at this point. But in the episode, she's sitting on the counter. This is back when he had the shutter shades. This is shutter shades era. He walks in with some shutter shades. They were black. He had on like a black fit. And the way she looked at him and was like, Mr. West is in the building. And I was like, ooh, something's up there. Like, I just felt it. And so when they eventually became an item, I was like, I called this shit like a decade ago. I knew they were going to be together. And so, like, when they eventually got married, I really felt some kind of way about that because I was like, yo, I was there, like, that's me. So anyway, once I saw them with my own eyes at the Dash store, I was pretty much down for the ride at this point. Like, that's when my investment really became. So anything they do after that, I'm going to defend. Like, because I'm like, nah, though. Especially Kim becoming a lawyer. And I'm so fucking glad she did this. You don't understand. I'm so fucking glad she's doing this because that to me is the perfect like arc of all of this. And I don't think people give her enough credit for like her criminal justice. And let me say this because I think people rightfully feel like there's been people boots on the ground, Black women, white women, all kind of women on the boots on the ground fighting for criminal justice for a while. And then here comes Kim, the person famous for being famous, coming over and now claiming this whole criminal justice reform thing. And I understand that sentiment. And I would feel the same way if I were one of those people. That aside, I give her credit for she could attach herself to any cause. She could attach herself to anything. And that woman has Black kids. She fucks Black niggas and she hangs around Black people. Y'all getting her ass about wearing braids. Like, I think it balances out when she's attaching her name and her brand to a cause that affects us almost more than any cause that we're fighting against right now. She could attach herself to, and not only is she attaching herself to it, she's actively participating. So like,
I think it's just in the same way where you see the Kardashians as the metaphor for like the hustle and the struggle and the ascension. Without that context, and if you're not looking at it through those eyes, what you're seeing is how America works, right? You're seeing like a person who's rich and who's powerful, who now has a voice and can make change, which is the American dream in a nutshell. But I mean, what do they say? When you make it, you get haters. We love the idea of the American dream when it's for us. The whole idea of the American dream is that not all of us can have it. So as much as we strive for it and want it, we hate it when other people do it. So we don't like the fact that now she has the power to enact change, because that's not what it should take to be able to enact change, right? You shouldn't have to fuck rappers, make $1 billion, make a reality TV show to be able to enact change. But she is in the better position than anybody else, those boots on the ground people, as you have mentioned. So they become a reflection of what America is, right? Like, people hate the Kardashians because they're like, this is not what we want our country to be. You shouldn't be famous just for being famous. But yet we live in a country where you are famous for being famous. Whether you like it or not, we give into it. We watch it. The same people who say that they don't like them are watching E! Entertainment at night and are watching E! News and are adding to it. So it's a strange cycle.
But I love that point you brought up. She represents the part of America that those people boots on the ground despise. And like, perfect point. I have no rebuttals to that.
So now that you've seen all right. So I mean, from what it sounds like, the story, the final episode that is happening in 2 days or tomorrow, that you should want to expect. It almost feels like it should be at her lawyer graduation. Like that would be the full thing for you. But this season has not gone in that direction at all, you're saying. So why are you disappointed then? After you speak about like that, all of that hustle and that investment, what have you gotten from this season and what is it lacking?
I mean, this season to me felt like a throwaway. Like, I'm happy they're ending it because what I got from this season was they're not in it no more. Like they can take it or leave it.
Maybe that's the point. Maybe they have ascended past reality TV. So maybe
they have.
Like it worked. It almost worked so well that they no longer have to. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not pleasing you, right? Like they're only doing the season for you.
Exactly. Because they could have honestly stopped 10 seasons ago. Like, we didn't need 20 seasons of this. We didn't need 17 years of this. And the spinoffs. Don't forget, we had Courtney and Kim take New York. Kim and Khloe take Miami. Like we had Khloe and Lamar. Kylie had a thing. We had Matt. I don't consider that I guess you can throw that in there, but I don't consider that a Kardashian spinoff.
But he only got it because he was hanging out with the Kardashians.
But my point is things that were branded Kardashian, I've seen every single episode.
Oh my God, wow.
The spinoffs and everything. The only spinoffs I did not watch was the Dash Store had a spinoff and Kylie had her own spinoff. I didn't watch those. But if Courtney and Khloe take New York, take Miami, all the wedding specials, Bruce Jenner's show, like I watched it all. Caitlyn Jenner, I'm sorry, Caitlyn Jenner show, like I watched it all. So what would I have liked, right? If I had pure creative control, I would want a 2-hour special. The first 30 minutes would be like a traditional style episode where, we're just seeing them at the house doing their thing. The last 90 minutes would be, I want somebody high caliber. Oprah, what's my dude? Letterman. Like, I want someone high status that respects them to do a panel episode and lay out in the way that I just laid out to you. Because that to me is the end arc, to say like, we're not just famous for being famous. That's the point I wanted them to like end the show with. They started off as that, but you should have put the bookend of proving to these niggas like, nah, fuck you. Look at what we have accomplished. And I want someone to sit down and have a panel. I want the whole family there. I want Caitlyn there. I want Rob there. And just to have a declaration to say the accomplishments that these women have had and what the family as a brand has been able to accomplish, the records they've broken in terms of TV, even the fact that like what they've done for beauty and negatively and positively. But let's not mention the impact they've had on beauty for the last 10 years. So yeah, I would want that. Like, let's remind these people why you're still here all these years later.
What did your daughter have like any idea of the Kardashians? Like what does that look like from an outside perspective?
So for the most part, the people that I'm a fan of, she's inherited them. Mariah, Kim. I don't hear her ever speak negatively of them. So I think she looks at them the way that I look at them. But I have an unhealthy relationship with my with my celebrities. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but she'll sit down and watch an episode with me.
But you've never seen anything like stand out? You've never had a moment where you're like, oh, I don't want that, or I regret that, or even on the vice versa, the opposite, where you're like, oh, I actually appreciate that? Do you think it has an impact like that?
Well, the one thing I do with her when it comes to the Kardashians and it comes to some of the celebrities she likes, I make sure I show her how they used to look before they had plastic surgery. So, like, particularly Ariana Grande, particularly Kim and Chloe and Kylie, because she's only seeing them the way that they are now. And now is something that, for me growing up with only a man, me not seeing the process of what it takes to be beautiful, just like the day-to-day of like, oh, you apply makeup, you put on lipstick, you put on mascara, you fill in your eyebrows. I would look at people and think like, yo, she's mad fucking beautiful. Not thinking like in comparison to myself, not realizing that they were wearing makeup. Because if it wasn't a bold red lip or if it wasn't blue eyeshadow, I didn't calculate it as makeup. And so I want her to realize, like, yeah, these women are beautiful, but let me show you what they really look like. So I'm constantly showing them that because I know she thinks that the Kardashians are a standard for beauty because that's what they've become, even like unspoken. Like all the girls look like them now. So that's the only thing where I do step in and like provide commentary for. But anything else, I'm like, if Kim comes on screen and her outfit is dope, I'm like, yo, isn't her outfit dope?
Well,
You know, isn't her makeup dope?
I don't think that's a small thing, because I mean, we just spoke about earlier about dysmorphia and not like understanding the difference between natural and artificial beauty. And like you're making a point that no matter how unhealthy your relationship with this and how much you're down to ride to be with the journey, you have had to put a line in the sand when speaking to your daughter and recognizing something, because I do think you realize that there could be an unhealthy aspect to it.
Yeah, I mean, the rate in which women are getting plastic surgery. So let's talk about the negatives, right? Because there's let's balance it out, right? Back in the day, I don't think celebrities are getting more plastic surgery now than they did in the 90s. I think the difference is back in the 90s, you didn't want to look like you got work done. Somebody getting a nose job was a big deal. It was like, for someone like me that reads tabloids, that's front page. Like, so and so got a nose job, because you wanted it to be subtle. Or they would do it little by little over the years, so that by the time 10 years, you didn't even realize it happened. Like the two people that prescribe to that I can point out is Halle Berry and Beyonce. Now Beyonce has accelerated now, because she'll like, from a body standpoint, she's accelerating the time in which she's willing to reveal her body changes. But up until about like maybe 8 years ago, she's been slowly getting stuff over the years. Halle Berry, same thing. It's not drastic. Now we get into this Kim Kardashian era, and she was on TV. She has a lot of airtime, right? She has a reality show, an hour-long show where we're seeing her, and there's 20 seasons of it. And from season to season, she doesn't look like the same person. But she's like looking, depending on how you view beauty, this is not how I feel, but generally one would say she's looking better and better. Like her body's getting better, just like she's looking better and better over the years. And it was unapologetic about the rate in which she was doing it. And I think she gave other people permission to say like, oh, I don't gotta be subtle. Oh, I cannot have an ass last year and come through with a big old ass this year, and it's okay, and it's being celebrated and people making money off of it. Oh, okay, I can go do that shit too.
Yeah, she 100% did that. And that was a big shift in our market. Like, right, the whole going to DR, coming back with a body, you're like, it became okay because that's what celebrities do, and it became okay to copy what celebrities do, because then the alternative was like, well, now I can make money off of it, right? Because there's social media. So now I'm doing what the celebrity's doing, but it does have an effect, because now I'm becoming a celebrity just by going to do the same surgery that the celebrity is doing. And now you have what, Megan the Bodies, like we have these are names. of people.
Exactly.
Megan the Body's not a person, right?
No. You're combining Megan the Stallion with Buffy the Body.
There we go. I thought so.
Two completely different eras. Like, you showed your age though.
Oh man.
Like, this has to be the clip. This has to be the preview right there. Nah, you really showed your age. Just you said Megan the Body.
And I knew I was off. Like, I knew it didn't even feel right coming out, but I could not have told you. I know there was a Megan Thee Stallion, but I could not have told you where the body came from.
Yeah, you got that from Buffy the Body. So that's the negative impact. And even and then let's not forget about Kylie with the lips.
Kylie was the biggest one. Like, I would say Kim started it, but Kylie made it, because the first lie about Kylie was that she would just put on lip gloss that made your lips burn, and like it was ridiculous like that. And then it went literally from there to surgery, and now I can't swipe through an app without seeing Kylie identicals. Like, I sometimes, like, the only way I know that they are not hers because they're shorter or they're wider than her, but they all look subscribed to the one image, one look.
Yes. Yeah, that's where I draw the line. So like when I referred to the Kardashians, I'm referring to Kim, Kourtney, Khloe, Kris, Kim and Kendall. I mean, Kendall and Kylie, I guess because they were younger. They were younger when I started watching the show. So those are little girls to me. Like, they looking up to me, I'm not looking up to them. Like I don't include them in the Kardashians, and they're Jenners. Like, that really makes a difference to me. They're not Kardashians. They're Kylie Jenner and Kendall Jenner.
But those are the girls that your daughters are now looking up to.
Exactly. Exactly. So let me tell you why they're distinct to me, aside from age. So like Armenia, like, it's still a white country, right? Like, I'm not gonna say that Kim is not white because she's half Armenian. But the difference is that Kylie's like white. Kim has that, or at least had before she got all this work done. She had that exotic edge to her where she was kind of ambiguous, and Kourtney even more so. And so like when Kim plays with colors and plays with like different looks, I'm a little bit more open to it, because in some instances and in some scenarios, if she weren't a celebrity, her being Armenian could be an other in certain situations in life. I don't know if she's ever encountered that, but like there are scenarios where she could be deemed other. Kylie, on the other hand, like, you're white. You're not gonna have hips like that. You're not gonna have an ass like that. You're not gonna have lips like that.
But Kylie created the white exotic, right? Because before there was Kylie Jenner, to be an exotic white girl, you had to be Iggy Azalea, right? Australian with a booty and then fake blonde hair.
But the difference is Iggy is exotic because she's Australian. Like that gives her edge. Kylie is white.
But now that is an exotic white girl. The Kylie type of white girl is an exotic. Like, I see the way that they present themselves.
Yeah.
And they have definitely defined a line. Like, that is the hip hop white girl now.
Yeah.
That is what an exotic white girl looks like. So
exactly. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, it does feel like a gentrification of Black beauty.
Mm-hmm.
As I look through it, that's what it looks like to me. And don't get me wrong, like, some of those girls are bad that I'm like, wow, I have never seen a white girl look like you before. That's not exotic, as you put it, that Armenian. And it's because it's a look that works. Like, it almost feels like it's something that's been tested and approved and can now be achieved.
Yes. And what's sadder about Kylie than Kim is Kylie was so young when she got a lot done. I remember when Heidi Montag, do you remember Heidi and Spencer? I forget which show they came from, The Hills.
Oh, yeah. My bad.
He got mad work done on one day.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
And it was a huge deal. It was like, that was the tabloid story of the season. And because you remember, I've been up on tabloids since like.
Nah, I remember that. There was like the meme of her crying. Like that's before memes, but like her
Yeah, this
face
is
and her
before me.
cheeks were
Yeah.
so big.
And that was a big deal. And so like for but she was a grown ass woman when she did that. But for Kylie, she got most of her work done between like 16 and 17. And that to me, and this is where I disagree with like Chris and them, is like, why y'all let her do that so young? Like, so like if I had to be, and I know earlier I talked about never getting my face done. I would never do anything to my face. But let's say I was one of those white parents, right? And if I had to be okay with my daughter getting some plastic surgery young, I would approve a nose job if she really felt uncomfortable about her nose. But like anything outside of that, you getting body done, you getting hips, ass, titties, eyebrow lifts, eyelid lifts, lips, cheek and chin implants, breathroplasties, like that's a lot.
But see, where do you draw the line? Because the reason why I don't subscribe to any of this is because I go, one leads to the other. You cannot have the Kim Kardashian is always going to sprout the Kylie Jenner. And I don't see them. I mean, I could have told you that before there was a Kylie Jenner, that this is what was going to happen. When you put cameras in front of 12-year-old girls all the time and their sisters are known for their bodies.
Well, here's the difference, because back in the day, getting a boob job that's been around for years. The difference now is the hips and the ass and the waist and like now you're fucking with extreme fatal organs. Like,
but the next generation always takes it to the next level. That's what happens, right? That's why we have to be good role models, right? Like I don't think these are new lessons. Like we get that. That's what old heads are talking about when they're talking about that the world's going crazy and the world's going mad. And that's why, I mean, we talked about the haters of the Kardashians, but it's the same as those boots on the ground people, because they're like, hey, don't you know what's going to happen from this? It's going to, and we watched it. It's already happened, and we watched it happen before our eyes, and we knew better. And we didn't know better, but we should have known better. And that's the way I take it. Like, we speak about these Kylie girls, and I mean, I'm calling them exotic white girls, but they're not only white girls. Like there are a whole multitude of people who can fit into this. Like they all look the same, you know. And I guess
girls, black girls,
yeah. And when I see that look, it's a personality type. It already tells me about you. So for me to go walk up to you and pretend like I don't realize that's me being delusional. And in a sense, I feel like that's what we've done for the last 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've always known, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with like recording yourself having sex, right? I genuinely don't. I don't think there's wrong with it leaking. But when your society celebrates it, it leads to an OnlyFans.
And what's wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but let's not deny that they are connected, is what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with it, but we have to just be aware of what the circumstances of our events are. And those people who are trying not to they do have a problem with the OnlyFans, right? Like, that's what those people say. But I do think it's just, we did start with the positives. But it is like, we cannot deny that it also there's another side of it. So like everything, there's a full balance and a spectrum to it.
Yes. Enough for me to step in and tell my daughter, like, hey, by the way, let me show you what Shorty looked like 10 years ago, because she sees me fawning, but that's because I already know, like, that I'm like, wait a minute, before you fawn, I gotta let you know. Yeah, I gotta let you know how Shorty used to look. And now we can fawn, but with that context.
So do you think meeting the Kardashians made your life? I don't know what would you say? I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but like what has been the impact?
It's been overall positive. Yeah, it's been overall positive. Like I said, that going to that Dash store opening and being in the mix and all that and seeing them with my eyes at a time when I needed that level of motivation to keep pushing, and it worked. Like, I'm still pushing and I still keep an eye on what they're doing. I keep up with the Kardashians. I really do. I really do. And so even when I don't know if you remember or even knew about, so you know she has her brand Skims.
Yeah, it's like
the
body stuff, right? I'm listening, by the way.
Yeah. When she was first developing the brand, it wasn't called Skims. It was called Kimono. And a lot of the Asian community felt that it was inappropriate for her to name her brand Kimono. And even to the point where like the president of Japan or like the mayor of Tokyo, like something crazy like that, wrote her a letter and asked her to please change the name of the brand because it was offensive. And she was like, yo, like I've already printed mad inventory with the logo. Like this is already concepted. Like, but what did she do? She realized, she was like, you know what? I hear you. I receive it. This is inappropriate. I got to go back to the drawing board and start from square one, regardless of how much bread I'm going to have to eat for it. And like, all the while, I was like, nah, Kim, keep that name. Like, keep that shit.
I see that as a business move, though, because if there's that much outrage in the beginning, you're not giving your business a chance to sell. So just as a smart business person, it's better to take the L and rebrand rather than stick to your guns and have a failing business because of it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't. Yes. I see that. I mean, because it's not like you got countries talking about you. This is not gonna go right. I'm sorry. So I can't tap her on the back for that one. Like, what do you? Come on.
I surrender. I surrender. But we talked about, but here's why I brought that up, because you asked me about, like, I was talking about how I'm inspired, like, because regardless of how what the reality was, how I perceived it was like, all right, nah, she did what she had to do, and I respect like that. Stay with me. I was like, okay, you know what? I guess if you are facing, because I was like, keep your fucking name. Do not don't bend for these niggas. That's how I saw it. Like, don't bend. And the way I saw it, she bended. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna save that for a future note, that if I ever need to bend, I can look back on this as a reference.
Yeah. And because as your role model, that's a lesson you learned, because you're already invested.
Exactly. I'm already invested. Meanwhile, I tell people I'm a Kim Kardashian fan and they low-key lose respect for me. They're like, what? I'm like, nah, like, no Kim slander over here.
Well, I mean, if I feel like slandering, I'm gonna slander. But that's why I think it's important for us to have these conversations, because you're a person who thinks about the things that you do. So when somebody asks you, you can have an explanation. And there are a lot of people who are thoughtless about things and just do things because they're patternized to it. So I do think getting your thoughts on it is very important. The whole time I didn't know we were gonna lead to the negative side to it. You brought that up, but that's immediately where my mind goes. So I respect your mind that it almost works in the inverse of mine, where I go, okay, I see the negative in that, but also let me try to pull out some positive in it. You're like, you see the positive into it, but you're also acknowledging the negative to it, right? That's the balance that we're trying to find here.
Yep, that's what it is. And like, it's the same way the way you feel about wrestling And the way I feel about wrestling, it's the same dynamic. Cause I'm like, these niggas is fake though. But they fake, and you're like, no, but listen, like there's a storyline, there's a this, is that, and you can get it, you can fangirl out on it just as much as I can fangirl out. And I have to respect it because I'm like, you're not a fan of this for no reason. You're like you're not gonna be spending your good time on this shit for no reason. So I already have to respect it. And so my ears are open. But I'm not gonna be that receptive to everybody on every topic.
Exactly. And in the same way that the reality, like there's a thing to it that you're not seeing, people. Like there's so much more to it. That's where I'm invested in as well. So I gotta pull out I see all of the positives to it, but I also gotta pull out the negatives. Like I acknowledge, I'm like, there's this, there's that from it. But what do I take from it that makes me better? Is that round picture.
Yeah. 100%.
And wrestling allows me to respect reality TV more and things like that, because I get it now when I look at the people, and the same inverse as you, when there's fucking Total Bellas and
yes,
those diva shows where they had to flip it on them to give that aspect to it. Yeah,
exactly.